Hi, this is Nakshinam. This video is being created to demonstrate the basic configuration necessary to connect a local, which will be this network, and a remote network, which is here. This requires knowledge of IP addressing and subnet masking. So if you don't know this, you're going to have to review it. I'll cover configuring a PC, configuring a fast Ethernet on a router, configuring a serial interface on a router, both a DCE end and a DTE end, the passwords, enable, secret, console, and VTY, configuring the host name of a router, the banner message of the day, clock rate, disabling CDP on an interface description, and host tabling, as well as configuring RIP for routing and the network tables. Okay, first let's change the names of our devices that we can see. I'm going to call this PC A. I'll call this switch A. And I'll call this router A. I have changed the labeling of the remote network to router B, switch B, and PC B. Next, I'll configure the PCs. My plan is to create a network on the 10 subnet here, or the 10.0.0.0 network ID. Here will be the 12 or 12.0.0.0 network ID, and the serial interface will be the 11.0.0.0 network ID. So the fast Ethernet port here, configure it as 10.0.0.0.1. So that is going to be the default gateway of PCA. So let's configure that. Go to config. The gateway is going to be 10.0.0.0.1, and then we must place the PC on the same subnetwork. And to do that, the IP address is going to be 10.0.0.0. Now, I like to choose 1 for my interfaces, a low number on routers. So we'll take the next number, and that will be 2. The subnet mask by default will be 255.0.0.0. And this is all we need for PCA. Here, I've configured the gateway for 12.0.0.1 and the fast Ethernet, or the PC's configuration of IP. Oops, shouldn't be 1, it should be 2, with a subnet mask of 255.0.0.0. Next thing to do is to put the WAN cards in the routers. So I'll click on the router, and first I have to power off the router, then drag a WAN interface card with 2 ports into the slot 0 and power it back on. If we go to the CLI, you can see that we have our 2 fast Ethernets and our 2 low-speed serial connections. I'll now go and do this for the B router. I've placed the WIC card in the B router, and now I'll do my cabling. The cabling here is simple copper straight through. I'll click, go from fast Ethernet to fast Ethernet 01 on the switch, then from fast Ethernet 02 to fast Ethernet 00. I'll go and do this on the B network next. I've completed the same wiring on the B network. Now the last thing we need to do is to place a serial cable between the 2 routers. Now I've chosen router A as the DCE end, so I will go to the icon with the clock. I'll place that on serial 0/0/0 and take it to 0/0/1. The next thing that we'll do is go from the serial port to the console. Next, I'll go to PCA, go to the desktop, then go to the terminal. I'll click OK, accept the defaults, and you can see we have connection to the router. I do not want to use the system configuration dialog, so I'll hit no, then enter, and then return. The first thing that I'm going to do is configure the fast Ethernet port, and then I'll configure the serial port. The fast Ethernet port is going to have an IP address of 10.0.0.1, yeah, and a subnet mask of 255.0.0.0, and then I'll use the no shut command to turn it on. So we'll go from user mode to privilege, then configure terminal to go to global configuration, and then we need to go to the interface, specifically the fast Ethernet interface 0/0. So I will type in INT FA, hit the tab, and then 0/0, and this will take me to the fast Ethernet 0/0 interface configuration. And you can see this because it has config if. Here, the address, well, we need to configure IP, so it's going to be IP. What are we configuring? The IP address, so ADD tab gives us IP address. Then the IP address of that interface is going to be 10.0.0.0.1 space, then the subnet mask 255.0.0.0. Hit return, type no shut for no shutdown, and the interface should be operational, and we should get a green dot signifying that the interface is up. But here the switch has to discover the router, so when this is green we should be able to ping from PCA to router A. There we have it. So if we go to the command prompt and ping 10.0.0.0.1, we have a reply. I'll control C to get out of there. Next, I'll go to the terminal and I'll configure the serial interface. I'm in the fast Ethernet interface configuration, so I'll type EX to exit down one level, and then I'll type INT for interface, and then SE for serial, tab to see serial, and then it's 0/0/0. Hit enter, and then it's the same as for the fast Ethernet interface. IP address of, now here, this is the 1.0.0.0 network ID. We need to give this an ID. Let's give it 11.0.0.1, and we can give it any subnet mask we want, but to conserve our IPs, I'm going to give it a subnet mask of 255.255.255.252. This is a range of 4 IPs, meaning we can essentially have 2 hosts, one for the DCE, one for the DTE. Hit return. Then I'll type in clock rate of 56,000 because the DCE must have a clock rate. Hit enter, and then let's turn the interface on with no shutdown. Hit enter. Control Z, hit enter, and then show interface SE 0/0/0. You'll see, oh, it's down. How come it's down? Because the DTE end, the remote serial connection, has not been configured. Let's go to the other side, the remote network. Go to PCB, the desktop, our terminal, and we'll do the same thing. Get this aligned, but I can't. We'll hit no to not accept system configuration dialog. Hit enter. Hit enable, type enable, then conf t. We'll do the fast Ethernet, so it's INT FA 0/0 for the fast Ethernet, and then IP address of, now this is the 1.2 network, so we're going to configure it as 12.0.0.1, and the subnet mask is going to be a normal class A, 255.0.0.0. Hit enter. Then we'll turn it on, no shut, and you can see that we have a green light, and soon we'll have a green light on the switch. Next, I'll configure the DTE end of the serial connection, and this means I'll have to type exit to go to global config, and then I will need to type INTSE 0/0/, yeah, it's 1, and give it an IP address of the other end of the connection was 11.0.0.1. Here we'll use 11.0.0.2 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.252. Hit enter, no shut, and you can see we have green lights on our connection. What I'm not able to do though here is ping from PCA to PCB. So let's go to the router, and we'll have to go to global, then we need to go to the router global configuration. So router, and the protocol we're going to use is RIP, and then we need to tell the router which network IDs it's responsible for. And here the command is network. What's next? I need a network number. Well, the network number, one of the network numbers is going to be 11.0.0.0, and then I need to do this for the 1.2 network, and everything should be okay here. We'll check by show run. The interface fast Ethernet is up. Serial 001 is up with the right configuration. I have router RIP and 2 network IDs. Very good. I'll do the same thing on router A. Configure T, router RIP, network. The 2 network IDs here are 10.0.0.0 and 11.0.0.0. Control Z, enter, show run, host name is router, fast Ethernet's okay, serial is okay, and our network configured for our routing. So I should be able to go to the command prompt from PCA and ping the other PC. What's its IP address? 12.0.0.2. There, we have our basic network. Now, let's do our passwords. So on the A network, let's do the enable password. So conf t, And then, what's that command? The command is going to be enable. So, enable, which password? We'll do the normal password, the enable password. We'll make it simple, we'll call it Cisco. And enter. Control Z, enter, sh run, enable password Cisco. But this password is not encrypted, so I'm going to enable secret. I'll just call it Cisco again. Control Z, enter, show run, and you can see here that the secret password is encrypted. Now this password allows you to get to privilege mode. What we would like next is to configure the console password so that anyone trying to just use the console has to know a password. So we go and use configure terminal for global mode, global configuration mode, and the command for the console requires that we use line, and which line do we want to configure? The console, and we must place in a 0. Okay, what's next? Well, let's see. Question mark. Password. We want to set a password. Password space, well, Cisco. And the last thing we must do is log in so that we can enable password checking. Enter, Control Z, enter, show run. We have our secret password, we have our enable password, and we have our console password. Now, it's a good time to copy, run to start, and if we log out and hit enter, then we are asked for which password? The console password. Then we enable, ask for another password. Which one is this? It is the secret password. When you have an enabled password and the secret password will supersede the enabled password. Type in Cisco, and we're okay. I'll be back in a second after I configure the same thing on router B. Oh, no. I'm going to configure the VTY. So, config T line, and here I'm going to type in VTY, and I want to do all of the first 5 virtual terminals with the same password. To do this, it's the beginning, or the first virtual terminal to number 4, which is the 5th, hit enter, and then password Cisco, and then next is login, Control Z, enter, show run, and now you can see we have the Cisco password on all 5 of those virtual terminals. I'll now copy my running to my startup. Next I'll go to the B network and do exactly the same thing, and I'll be back. And I'm back, and just to show you that I've done this on B, I've done the show run. I have the secret. I have the enable password. My fast Ethernet is set. My DTE serial is set. I have router RIP. I have my password on my console and the first 5 virtual terminals. What shall we do next? Let's give host names. Well, a host name is an English name given essentially to an IP address or IP addresses. Let's go to global configuration mode. Let's look for host name. There's host name. Set the system's network name. Network name will be mapped to an IP address or addresses using host tables. So, host name, and, well, let's call it router A. Notice that the prompt is now router A. The next thing I'll do is I will create a host table so the IP addresses on the interfaces. And how many do we have? We have an interface for the fast Ethernet and one for the serial. So what are those IP addresses? Well, we have 10.0.0.0.1 and then a space and then 11.0.0.1 and hit enter. Now I have to do another one of these because this table is for all of the connected routers. And this allows for pinging from one router to another using the host name. It also allows the ability to telnet into the router using a host name. So I will go to router B and set the host name. Then IP host router B and its IP addresses. Well, it's got 11.0.0.2. It's also got 12.0, 12.0.0.1. That takes care of the two routers, that takes care of themselves, but we need to place the other routers' configurations into the host name table, the host table. So we'll go and place and it is not .2 but .1 and not 1.2 but 1.0. Then we'll go to router A and this is the DTE or serial on router B, and that's the fast Ethernet. Let's see if these are case sensitive. I should be able to ping router B. Is it case sensitive? Yes, it's case sensitive. So, let's do a quick check. If we do a show run, I have router A, router B. Here. What's our name? Router A. I don't think that's going to make a difference. But you know what? I'm going to just be consistent. And I'm going to change the host tables. So en, oops, conf t, and then it's going to be to get rid of that. No host router B. And no IP host router A. Let's keep this consistent. So I'm going to do router A with a capital, and then, oops, router B with a capital, just because I want to keep my naming consistent. Always keep your naming consistent. Then go to router B, and this is okay, so I can Control Z, show run, and I have router B, and router B there. You couldn't see it, but it's there. Okay, so let's ping router A, no problem. Router B, no problem. Ping router A, no problem. Ping router B, no problem. Next thing I'll do is place a banner. This is for security, quite important. And where do we do that? Well, it's the global config. So, what's our command? Banner, there we are. Oops, I got an error there because my spelling was incorrect. And what is next? And I'm still having problems with my spelling. This is what happens when you type quickly. M-O-T. So it's M-O-T-D. What's next? I need a delimiting character. You need the start and end of your message. Everyone usually uses the hash, then hit enter, and let's type in the message. Warning, only authorized personnel may use this device. All others will be considered hackers. You can do what you want, but you must let people know they do not belong here unless authorized. The last thing we do is end with the same character that was our delimiter. Hit enter. Go Control Z, Z. Hit enter. And copy, run to start. Why? Because I want to keep all my configurations. Let's log out. Hit enter. There's our message of the day. Password is Cisco. Enable to go to privilege. It's the secret password, Cisco. Well, I was interrupted and I have forgotten where I was going. So let's review. We've configured the PC, we've configured the host name, the banner, all the passwords, the interfaces. We've only got the interface description and disabling Cisco Discovery Protocol on the interfaces. So let's disable the CDP on the interfaces. So go to configure T, then INT fast Ethernet 00, and to disable CDP, well, let's check. be up CDP. So CDP, what's next? Enable. Well, I don't want that. So let's do enable and then back up. And because this is enabled by default, I'm going to put no enable. Exit. Then we'll go to the serial interface. And we'll do no CDP enable. And while we're here, let's put some descriptions on these interfaces. Well, description. We have description, and we'll say our description is router A DCE. By the way, this isn't necessary. This isn't really a good idea. You don't want to give away too much information if someone starts hacking. Exit. We'll go to the fast Ethernet. Do a description. I'm using the history and router A, and we'll say 10.0.0.0 /8. And again, you'd never do this. You just never do this, but you may want to do it a different way. I'm giving it to you a simple, intuitive way. Exit out of there, Control Z, enter, show run, and what do we have? Host name, our passwords, fast Ethernet, no CDP enable. We have our description here. Our serial, here's our description, no CDP. We have our routing protocol with our network IDs. Our passwords on our lines. Our banner. Banner is here. And what did I miss? Ah, yes, our host table. And that is it. I'll leave you the rest to complete on your own, and that would specifically be the descriptions on the serial and fast Ethernet on the remote B network, as well as disabling CDP. I know this has been fast, so get yourself a player and slow down the speed. You can do that. So this is Nakshinam for my students. I hope this serves you well. And the last thing, of course, that we should do is copy, run, start, and save this. And we can then log out and say goodnight.